Well, James Comey just got indicted. I guess he's gonna have to shake it off. He has a crush on Taylor Swift, in case you didn't know. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, and I am not rejoicing in the misery of others. I actually don't think that James Comey is even miserable as a result of the news that just came down. I am, however, saying it's good. It's a little too late. I would have liked more, and I would have liked him being charged for his 86-47 shells on the beach nonsense, but James Comey has been indicted on 2 charges, if you haven't heard the news. From ABC News, former FBI Director James Comey indicted days after Trump demanded his DOJ move, quote, now, end quote, to prosecute enemies. Prosecutors earlier said they couldn't establish probable cause to charge Comey. By Catherine Falders, Alexander Mallon, and Peter Charalambous, September 25, 2025. Why it would take 3 people to write this article, I don't know. I guess many hands make work light, or as I like to say, too many cooks spoil the fake news broth. But let's get back to this article, because James Comey is finally facing the slightest hint, the slightest taste of justice. Former FBI Director James Comey was indicted Thursday on charges of making false statement and obstruction related to his testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2020, just days after President Donald Trump issued a public demand for his Justice Department to act, quote, now, end quote, to bring prosecutions against Comey and other political foes. Comey has been summoned to appear for arraignment on October 9th. Now, for those of you who don't know, Trump did put out a truth post the other day that was kind of weird because it kind of looked like it was a DM to Pam Bondi that he accidentally truthed out to the world, but I suspect that Donald Trump doesn't make those types of mistakes by accident, and he did it quite deliberately to put some pressure on feckless Pam Bondi, who doesn't seem to have done very much in her tenure thus far as AG of the DOJ. And in case you didn't see the post, Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump, Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially, quote, same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Leticia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done, end quote. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Dem senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that we had no case. No, I fired him and there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsey Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now, President DJT. This kind of reads like it potentially might have been a private DM that Trump accidentally truthed out to the world, because typically he ends his truth posts with thank you for your attention to this matter. It doesn't matter. I don't actually really seriously think it was a private DM that he accidentally truthed out. I think he was putting some pressure on Pam. It's on my desk, which happens to be a black hole Bondi, but he put that truth out. But yeah, a few days later, Comey gets indicted, and some people say the timing is suspicious. Others might be saying, my goodness, the 5-year statute of limitations on these charges for perjury was about to expire. These charges had to be brought before the end of the month in order for them not to have been time barred. So Pam Bondi seemingly finally got something right in her tenureship. Back to the article. Quote, my heart is broken for the Department of Justice. I have great confidence in the federal judicial system and I am innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith, end quote. Comey said in a brief video posted to his Instagram account. Keep the faith? Come on, Comey. That's not a Taylor Swift song. Get with it. Shake it off, Comey. Shake it off. The former FBI director has been charged with making a false statement to Congress and obstruction of an investigative proceeding before Congress related to his congressional testimony regarding the FBI's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Court records show the government's initial indictment sheet, from which a grand jury declined to charge him for an additional count of making a false statement to Congress. That last sentence seems to be somewhat fragmented, but alas, I don't write for ABC News. But going back to the 2016 Russian election interference, there was no Russian election interference. It was a big fat hoax to hamper Trump's presidency, to label him as a Putin apologist, Russian asset, to bog him down for 3 years of his first term. There was no Russian interference. It was a big fat lie, a big fat hoax, and James Comey was a pivotal player in propagating that big fat lie. Quote, no one is above the law, end quote, Attorney General Pamela Bondi posted to social media following the indictment. Quote, today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in the case, end quote. A statement released by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia said that if convicted, Comey faces up to 5 years in prison. Quote, actual sentences for federal crimes are typically less than the maximum penalties, end quote, the statement said. Following the indictment, Comey's son-in-law, Troy Edwards Jr., resigned from his post in the Eastern District of Virginia, where he was a national security prosecutor, according to an email obtained by ABC News.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my Substack. Last week's cold turns out to have been COVID, quite a flashback. And Donald Trump is still president and still humiliating America on a national stage, standing next to Vladimir Putin. It's like a dream, a bad dream you can't wake up from. But I don't want to talk about that bad dream this week. I want to talk about a truly inspirational public figure named Taylor Swift. Of course, I watched her podcast interview with the Kelsey brothers. Of course, I watched the whole thing, although on YouTube, Patrice and I got kicked off for the last 15 minutes and finished it on her phone. But I watched it. You see, Taylor Swift and I go way back. I went to my first concert of hers 15 years ago. I've been to a second, and I have helped financially support the attendance of a lot of family members at others. I'm in a family's Swiftie group chat. I know all her music, and I listen to it in my headphones when I cut the grass.
This is a crime family, hashtag my own personal opinion, no defamation. This is a crime family right from Maureen Comey's cover-up of the Epstein files to her cover-up of the prosecution in the P. Diddy case to her father being a pathological liar and, as far as I'm concerned, a man who made a threat against Donald John Trump, the president of these United States of America. The charges follow Trump's ousting of the attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert, who, according to sources, had expressed doubts internally about bringing cases against Comey, as well as New York Attorney General Letitia James, after Trump appointed him to lead the office. Trump then immediately moves to install Lindsay Halligan, a White House aide and his former defense attorney, to lead the office despite her having no prior prosecutorial experience. And then we get into discussions of probable cause for the purposes of bringing the indictment. Probable cause as relates to a man who took a picture of shells on a beach that said 8647, pretending not to know what that message meant, and then actually blaming it on his wife, James Comey. In addition to being a scumbag of a criminal, you are also one hell of a terrible husband. Earlier this week, federal prosecutors in Virginia informed Halligan that they could not establish probable cause to charge Comey, ABC News first reported. Despite the lack of clear evidence and ethical concerns about bringing a case without clear probable cause, Halligan sought an indictment from the grand jury, sources said. Quote, Jim Comey denies the charges filed today in their entirety. We look forward to vindicating him in the courtroom, end quote, said Patrick J. Fitzgerald as counsel for Comey. But after his initial post, which some thought was a mistakenly truthed out private DM to Pam Bondi, Trump covered his tushy and went out and praised Pam Bondi's performance as AG with another post. Quote, Pam Bondi is doing a great job as Attorney General of the United States. She is very careful, very smart, loves our country, but needs a tough prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia, like my recommendation, Lindsay Halligan, to get things moving, end quote, Trump said. The charges against Comey are the most dramatic escalation yet in what critics have described as a campaign of retribution by Trump to use the powers of the federal government to enact revenge against those he believes have wronged him. Can you believe the bald-faced audacity, hypocrisy, absolute shameless dishonesty for them to accuse Trump now of using the powers of the government to go after his political foes when they indicted him in I don't know how many states, how many charges. In some of these cases now, the charges have basically been dropped. Fani Willis, a corrupt SOB that she is, she's been dropped from the case. Letitia James, guilty of the fraud. And now they have the balls to accuse Trump of abusing of the powers of the federal government to go after his political adversaries. This is Nazi-level Joseph Goebbels propaganda. Accuse your adversaries of what you are doing so as to create confusion. They are guilty of what they accuse others of doing. This isn't retribution. This is justice, because James Comey is a pathological liar and I dare say a criminal. Later on in the article, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia began investigating Comey in early August following Trump's renewed call for prosecutions related to alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election, sources told ABC News. The investigation in the Eastern District of Virginia, which is being carried out concurrently in the Western District of Virginia and Eastern District of Pennsylvania, directly stemmed from FBI Director Kash Patel's discovery of sensitive documents at the FBI headquarters related to the Russia probe, sources said. You want to talk about burying the lead, ABC News? Way to include at the end of this article, for those who have even gotten here, that yes, they discovered new information under Kash Patel's leadership of the FBI, boxes of documents that seem to prove criminality on behalf of James Comey. So yeah, political retribution, yada, 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 pressuring Pam Bondi. Yeah, it's all Trump's fault. It's not the fact that James Comey might very well be a criminal and that Kash Patel discovered documents that I think people in the FBI thought they had destroyed when they were no longer in office. They said documents prompted investigators to examine whether Comey's testimony to Congress in September 2020 2020 regarding Russian interference could support charges of perjury or obstruction. Prosecutors specifically examined Comey's testimony about Hillary Clinton's alleged involvement linking Trump to Russia and whether Comey authorized leaks of anonymous information to the media. Spoiler alert, he did, and that is not only my opinion, I believe it's actually substantiated by actual evidence. And just from an AI overview, take it for what it's worth, but I know it to be true. The 2017 leak. In 2017, after being fired by President Donald Trump, Comey arranged for one of his memos detailing conversations with Trump to be shared anonymously with the New York Times via a friend, Columbia University law professor Daniel Richman. The 2019 IG report, an Inspector General IG report in 2019, found that Comey violated FBI policy by sharing the memos. However, the IG also stated that there was no evidence that Comey leaked any classified information from the memos. So yeah, James Comey is a pathological liar, a scoundrel of a human, and with any luck, and if there is any justice, a soon-to-be convicted criminal. And before we get to the indictment itself, just to see what it says, it's a short 2-pager. Make sure that you are liked, shared, subscribed, that you have notifications turned on. Drop a comment in the comment section because, as we say in the industry, YouTube is asshole and is not even sharing my own channel, my own videos with people who are subscribed to this channel. But the solution to that is Rumble, Viva Fry on Rumble, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But let's get to the indictment itself and just see it in all its beauty. In the United States District Court, Eastern District of Virginia, Alexandria Division, the United States of America versus James B. Comey Jr. Defendant. Paragraph 1. On or about September 30, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant, James B. Comey Jr., did willfully and knowingly make a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the government of the United States by falsely stating to a U.S. Senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he, James B. Comey Jr., had not, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports, end quote, regarding an FBI investigation concerning person 1. 2. That statement was false because, as James B. Comey Jr. then and there knew, he in fact had authorized person 3 to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person 1. 3. All in violation of 18 U.S.C. section 1001A2. Count 2. Obstruction of a congressional proceeding. Paragraph 4. On or about September 30, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant, James B. Comey Jr., did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of inquiry under which an investigation was being had before the Senate Judiciary Committee by making false and misleading statements before that committee, all in violation of 18 U.S.C. section 1505. Lindsay Halligan, United States Attorney. Indictment is step 1, fair trial is step 2, and in my humble opinion, conviction is step 3, and then sentence step 4. We are at step 1 of this long process of justice. We will see where it goes. I will be covering it. If you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, get some sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!